You were telling me a story offline. I don't know if you want to tell the story
Well,
again,
yeah,
but
let me tell the story because I'm furious at DoorDash. By the way, I spent thousands of dollars with DoorDash since the COVID. Very convenient. Sometimes maybe I didn't get my order right or whatever. They always took care of business.
mhm.
Uh, Even when I had this issue and I went on to talk to the people, they said, "Oh, we see you're excellent, top of the mart client. You're one of our best." I said, "Well, thank you." What I did is my kids can't stand the smell of liver being cooked in the kitchen. So I have to order my liver and onions from a cafe. And it's decent. It's not as good as I would make it. But it comes with bacon, and you have to say mashed potatoes, and you have to say the dressing on your salad. So I ordered it. It runs about 25 bucks. So with everything, it probably should have been 30. So all of a sudden I get a thing that DoorDash has been delivered. It's tiny little bag. I'm thinking, what the hell? And it's four slices of bacon. And it has a receipt on the bacon saying it's $9. But so I go to look what happened, and it shows that I ordered liver and bacon, but it's not showing on the DoorDash. But I could see that the page was open and I put it. I didn't order a side of bacon or anything like that. And they said they charged me $25 for those four slices of bacon. So they said, "We see you're a good customer." I said, "Look, something's wrong. I wouldn't have ordered the liver and onions comes with bacon. I wouldn't have ordered a side of bacon. I want the liver and onions." "Okay, well, we'll give you a $5 discount and you can reorder." I said, "No, I didn't want the bacon." And I talked to them till I was blue in the face. And I said, "You know what? This is a shame because all the money I spend with you guys, I'm done. I'm not going to use you. And by the way, I'm going to be on YouTube in a minute and I'm going to talk about my situation." Not that
Well,
everybody will endure this, but $25 with all the fees for four slices of bacon. I did, I just sort of spin and never look. And now it's really got my eyes open. My son said, "Mom, don't use DoorDash, use Instacart. It's better and it's cheaper," he said. So from
yeah.
now on, it's Instacart, you guys. But yeah, for you
But
guys going, "Ew, liver." Do you like liver?
uh, I don't know. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I used to. I remember as a kid, my mother would make exactly that, liver and onions, even kidneys too. I remember that.
yeah.
Now what I do is there's this thing you can get that is really clean and it's in capsules. You can get organ meats in capsules. So
Yeah.
I use that rather than because it's a little bit.
I enjoy, I know liver has a lot of toxins in it too, but I get it through the butcher down the street, and they got very clean cows, so to speak.
Mm,
But but like I said, my kids can't deal with the smell. And my mom and I remember sitting at the dinner table. My mom made bacon and gravy and all the fixings and onions.
onions,
Gotta
yeah.
have the onions. So yeah, now I'm going down to the store today and I'm gonna cook my liver and onions. I don't care what the kids say.
Yeah.
Happy Halloweeny.
Yeah. This is a perfect Halloween story.
And I got my shirt that my cousin Sue sent me, and it's my native shirt for the fair. I didn't go this year. I'll probably go next year. I was in Chicago.
Mm, nice,
And I
nice.
saw you and Kim the other day. You guys be sure to watch that. It was very good.
Yeah, we did. We had a really
Very
nice.
informative.
Yeah, we had a very nice talk. Yeah, because we hadn't spoken since the summer, since June, I think was the
That
last time
long?
we. Yeah, it's been a while. She was taking some time off, and then I was doing
Well,
other
she looks
things. And
great. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she
That was
looks
that was
great.
that
She's
was a lot of fun.
a very sweet energy for him.
Hmm.
One of the kindest to her and Freebird, Debbie and
Hmm.
Kevin Healing,
Hmm.
my backup team.
Yeah.
If I
Hmm.
was still doing Sedona, because they came up to my last gig up in Sedona, if I was still doing it, I would definitely have put you on the list to come up there.
Oh, really?
Of course, it
Yeah.
would have been hard because you would have just talked about astrology. You wouldn't have been able to do personal charts. You would just give an overview of astrology.
Yeah. Well, that's usually yeah. You pretty much Otherwise, you can do them, and you mean like in the sense that why would I not be able to do them? Because why?
Well, see, there was too many people, 70 people at the last gig. And I had to read, we cut it up in groups of 15, I think, and I would do a classroom and read. Whereas you would have been one of the ones like Kim and Debbie and Sue.
Mm.
Sue also was there. She was so funny, and it was her first time on stage. You would have thought she'd been in show business all her life. Sue Lynn. And they did a general. They talked to people. People really loved Kim and Debbie's thing too, because they gave you tips on how to be intuitive. And I could see you doing maybe what do you call when you put the picture up on the wall, a PowerPoint to talk about certain aspects and what to look for. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you approach it. I've done that in the past where using a laptop, but yeah, you have to enter the person's info. It's more complicated if you're gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So happy Halloweeny, and before
Happy
you know
Halloween
it,
to
it's
you.
going to be Tuesday, my friend.
Yeah, we're almost there. That's right. We're almost at.
Can't wait. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm not dreading it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the thing that there's a lot of information out there. A lot of people, sometimes I laugh because I think everybody is trying to predict something. Every person, oh, this will happen,
Right.
that will happen.
Right. Oh, she's going to win, hands down.
Mhm.
My friend from Florida, who's a fireman, hi, John, and very good with the coffee. He makes excellent coffee. He just wrote me and told me he has a friend that works like in charge of the polls in Florida. She said it's phenomenal, the amount of people that are doing early voting.
In Florida. But the only thing with
So that's
Florida
good
though,
news.
I'm kind of suspicious about Florida. I don't see that turning blue because the giveaway is that the Harris campaign doesn't go there at all. That's a bit odd when they're not going
But
there.
did you see all the parades and stuff for her? I thought it was a Trump campaign because they were driving in the golf carts. It was for Kamala.
Well, if she's not going
Well,
there.
if it doesn't turn blue, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that are going I wouldn't doubt if it goes to Kamala.
Well,
I'm sorry, or it's going to shock people. That's what I get.
well, I mean, in Florida, you do have that amendment and those have been very successful. The ones pro-abortion amendments.
Yeah,
I just don't. There's something strange when, if Florida were in play or Texas were in play, you would see them there because they're going. They know the numbers, right, where they are. She keeps going through, where the situation is close, is tense.
so it must not be close in Florida, is what you're saying.
Right, but it's not going to be. It's not going to be close toward Kamala. It's always going to be close the other way, or in a way. I mean, look, I'd love to see Florida go blue. Do I think it'll happen? No, that's my prediction. So
Okay, I just had a psychic flash that I saw Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace both look at each other in total shock. Like, did Florida just turn blue? I
well,
think we might have a surprise, like Rick Scott doesn't get in, or something's going to happen.
well, if that happens, I am 1,000% happy to be wrong on that one.
Yeah.
No question.
But you guys, somebody just wrote and told us she's from Canada. This is Ed Key. And very nervous. Mel just got back from Europe. He said Europeans are hella nervous. That I remember when George Bush won a second term and Europe couldn't believe it. Why did you guys vote him in again?
Well, George Bush. I thought George Bush was a bit of a lightweight, and I thought that back in 2000. But George Bush is leagues better than Donald Trump.
Gotcha.
When you look back at that whole administration, yes, they shouldn't have gone into a war. That was more of Dick Cheney's thing. But I mean, look, even Dick Cheney, who was Darth Vader, and now
He was terrible.
he's on Kamala's side. So
And
this
let
is
me tell you something. Bush and Cheney kind of weren't talking, because towards the end, when Cheney was giving this list of who he thought should be pardoned,
correct.
Bush wouldn't do it.
Well, it was Scooter Libby was the guy that Scooter Libby, Cheney had received, Libby helped him a lot and he wanted him pardoned and Bush wouldn't do it. So yeah, I remember that. But that whole administration, when you think of what they did, you can disagree. But I mean, at minimum, they're pro-U.S. I mean, what the biggest problem I have with this orange idiot is that he's pro-Russia. I mean, come on, this is like the worst sin that a Republican person could indulge in, and they're all following him. It's totally nuts. I think it's partly this connection to the white supremacy thing, because remember that guy that they threw out? We talked about this in Kim and I, where a few years ago that Steve King, the guy from he's from Iowa, and back then they were still, the Republican Party didn't like ultra racist talk. That's the guy that said at one point, Vladimir Putin is the leader of the free world. And the reason he said that is because he's a white guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way Russia is, men in power, women subservient. This is the way these guys think. So now they're saying it, and all the MAGA people, approve more of Russia. Whenever they do some kind of poll, you see that Republicans approve of Putin more than they approve of Democrats. That's how crazy it is, right? So it's really, really changed.
And little do they realize what Putin would do to them.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Especially somebody like Elon Musk. Oh, he'd love for him to move to Russia, and he would take over everything, clear out his bank accounts. That's how he rolls. You either pay him a lot of money, or he's gonna.
Oh yeah, no,
bring you
sure.
one of the richest men in the world was totally wiped out by Putin.
For sure, no, without question, for sure. So, anyways.
So Amy says Cannon has refused to recuse herself of the attempted assassination of the Trump case. Do you see her being removed by higher-ups?
This to me works in a sequence. So the first level is Kamala winning, whereupon all those charges are not going away, and that includes what happened at Mar-a-Lago, because that's actually the easiest case because it's so open and shut. You give that to a judge that is anywhere near neutral, and the man is toast because it's open and shut. Cannon is gambling on Trump winning so he can then reward her. It's not going to happen. That's how I see it.
I heard AG, and I also heard Supreme Court. So
I know. For sure. I mean, yeah, there's no question. But the point is that it's a sequential thing. It's a lot of these things aren't happening until the election situation is resolved, and that's what's going to happen, including.
So, Steve Bannon, how much Hancock will he cause again?
Bannon. That's another thing that we brought up yesterday. Bannon is in the wrong sun sign based on his chart.
His sun sign.
He's a Sagittarius. Sagittarius with probably Moon and Virgo is not in a good place right now. It's not a helpful thing. So now the thing with Bannon is he's probably their most intellectual, sharpest guy, other than the way he dresses and the way he looks. But the point being that he'll agitate. He'll say things. He's saying them already, right? But no. It's no. Then
he's begging people to send him money right now.
Yeah, they're trying all kinds of things, but no, it's not gonna go that way as I see it.
But you did say something with Kim. You said he's extremely intelligent.
No, he is. He's the kind of guy that if he had a different look. In fact, I made a crack. I think I said, put this guy's brain power inside Gavin Newsom, and you have a real problem, because people would go, oh, it looks really presidential, and look at the way think, that's Bannon. But that's not what it is. Bannon is on the wrong side of it. He's trying to.
Do you see any kind of an exit, or after Trump loses, is he just filtering away?
I think, well, let me put it this way. At least in the next year, 2 years, the main point is he's held back. But, in America, I mean, even, ex-mafia, you name it, they set up a podcast. There's this one guy that I ran into that had been a murderer, and then he got out, and then he runs a podcast to tell people about, his life. And So anything goes, right? So the
Anything
idea
else?
that you can stop him, it's unlikely. That's the American thing. America is all about free speech. This is why it's so hypocritical for Musk. Musk sets up Twitter, and then free speech is whatever he says, and he'll block whatever free speech he doesn't like. That's unfair. If you're going to do free speech, let it all in, right? So
He's a
unlikely
lowlife.
that he'll go away. But there's a difference between going away and being a genuine problem.
Did you look at him recently? Because it looks like he tried to get that, they were going to stop him on getting that money and he wanted to go federal. You know why he wants federal, so he can go to the Supreme Court.
Who?
Uh, Elon Musk.
I know that. What do you mean? What money are we talking about here?
Somebody in the state sued him right away for that money he's giving away.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge says, I want the hearing today or tomorrow. It was yesterday. And he was supposed to be showing up in court. And his attorney showed up and said that he petitioned that it goes federal, not state.
Let me see. The only thing with that is that, almost all those cases where people try to switch the venue, they get turned down, because
Okay.
they tried that. Mark Meadows,
Well,
he kept doing that repeatedly. So unless I didn't look up the case or anything, unless he's got a really good reason to do that, it'll probably be turned down. That's also what people know has been happening. The Republican Party has been trying constantly to put things in court, change rules. Now, the only rule that they did win on, which is a bit sad, is that Virginia rule where they got those 1,600 people thrown out.
and the Supreme Court did that. And somebody said, isn't it interesting how fast they can come to a conclusion?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
And then
for
they
sure.
gave no reason for their verdict.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but even that, you see, there is some legal thread that you can find because they can argue, well, no, let them prove that they're, and by the way, this is the same thing, with people. When people complain, you should be able to prove you're a citizen. You should be able to prove you have a driver's license. I mean, if you start saying, I'm a citizen and I can't prove it, that's a little weird too. So, and it gives these people an opportunity to go in there and shame, the Virginia by showing proper paperwork, right? Even
Yeah.
though, I mean, think about it. Think how goofy it is. This idea that people that are not citizens are scheming to get on the voter rolls. This is just a really dumb idea. You put yourself at so much risk. It's the last thing people would do. So it's almost certainly going to turn out that what it is that they found a way, to bump some people off. And I don't think it'll make a difference in the final result. But in the meantime, I'm just saying this because a lot of people then say, look, see, now there's the Supreme Court, look what they just did. This means that Trump could lose a state and send it up to the Supreme Court and they'll agree with him. That's a bigger lift, much bigger lift.
Much bigger lift.
To actually throw out votes, they're usually very extremely reluctant to touch that kind of thing.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
By the way, all those people, they said no, they can go back down and register with their driver's license and vote.
Correct. I mean, it's not which by the way, I would counsel them to. This is the thing when you're in a battle, never give in. It's like when they try any kind of suppression. Those rules, you can't stand in line and give water, all this BS. Always fight. Stand there for hours if you need to. Tough it out because you're sending an important message. When the way
TikTok
they're
had
trying
a
to block
young
you.
woman that went to vote. She'd never voted before. And there was these four men at a table that said, are you here to vote? And she said, yes. They said, you come over here. And she went over and they wanted her voter registration, her driver's license. Then they gave her, here's your sample ballot. You're going to just vote for everything on this ballot. And she opens it up and realizes for Trump. She threw it back at him. She said, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm a woman. And they started screaming at her and telling her that they hope that she needs to have a baby and maybe a forced baby.
Well, I mean, this is the thing in this election that to me is so plainly obvious. That they've walked into this tsunami going back to 22, and Trump continues to step in his own. He just
Yeah.
keeps
Oh,
doing it.
he
He
keeps
keeps,
blowing it left and right. I love it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's
Hey,
absolutely
and
true.
I also wanted to mention about Bannon. You know, Trump got rid of Bannon because he was jealous of him. Because he got on the cover of Time magazine, and that's something Trump always wanted to be.
There was more. When Bannon was in the White House, Bannon was still, he's one of those people that became more and more corrupted as time passed. And when he was in the White House, he was calling him out on too many things because already Trump was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And Bannon, a couple of times, said things that got out, and it really annoyed Trump. That's why
Oh,
he
he
called
was
him.
calling Trump out?
Yeah, he was calling him out by saying, that's really unpatriotic. I mean, you can't do that with Trump. You say
No.
anything at all, and he's gonna get rid of you. And so,
But in the meantime, let me get this fake uh, where you send me money for a wall that I'm just going to dig into.
well, that was the other thing that Bannon. Then he pardoned them. It's a gang of thieves. Bannon then started that website, took a whole bunch of people's money, and didn't build anything. He just put it in his own pocket. And then he was charged and convicted, and then Trump pardoned him. And this is the thing that isn't talked about enough, that Trump and Barr, he pardoned Roger Stone. I mean, they're a gang of crooks, a gang of total crooks. And how the guy stands there, I mean, this is Trump's genius, that he's like the I'm rubber, you're glue candidate, right? So he's the thief, he's the liar, he's the crook, and he calls everybody else, oh,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so dishonest, oh, they're sleazebags, they're scum of the earth, all these
Low
horrible
IQ. He
insults.
loves to say low IQ. He's the low IQ kid.
Yeah, he's the low IQ. I mean, can you imagine him comparing his IQ to Kamala's IQ? No, that's a joke. That's a total joke. By the way, that's why he didn't debate her. But notice how relentless he is. He's relentless. He lost the debate. He knew he got totally wiped out. So he goes into the next room immediately and he starts saying, I won the debate. It was 92-8. And he's just a lying machine, man. I mean, it's just, and he knows
Oh,
his
you're
people.
going to send all these people that have kids that sent them to school or the school nurses. They're looking at them cross-eyed. You're going to send your kids to school. They go in as a female and they're going to come out as a male.
It's absurd. I know it's completely absurd. And the other thing too is that the numbers, they make the specialty in the GOP with Trump at the top is make mountains out of molehills. Take a little thing. There are 3 immigrants. Oh, there are immigrants everywhere. They're going to come and kill you, murder you. It could happen at any moment. This is complete BS. Remember the caravans? Those caravans, there's a caravan coming the very next day. As soon as the election ended, no caravan. Disappeared. Wasn't even talked about. They were pumping it on Fox. Caravans everywhere. Then there's no caravans. Where did it go?
They lied.
I mean, it's remarkable too. You got to think about that. So you're coming in a caravan. Those people usually, they check the landscape before they make a move. So they're going to come up just then when there's an election. Perfect timing. I mean, come on. It's a joke.
How does the chart of January 20th look like?
It looks, I mean, the thing is that it looks okay, but it doesn't look easy from November 5th all the way to inauguration. It doesn't look easy. It looks like a tense situation, but it's good enough. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I doubt, though, that we're going to have a January 20th and the country's going to be happy because at minimum, that half the country's upset, whichever way.
Yeah, you're going to have the cray craze.
Yeah, exactly.
But the women will be happy. Lucas Kuntz had an incident where he accidentally shot a supporter at a gun range. Probably didn't kill him. I didn't even read anything on this. Josh Hawley is exploiting this she put Hawley, it's Hawley, is exploiting this every chance he gets to benefit his campaign. But he's not well liked. Josh is not well liked.
He's not, but it's Missouri, it's Missouri.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, I continue to say that my biggest worry is that the Senate might flip because I looked at Schumer's chart. It's okay, but it's not nearly as good as it was in 2020. It's, in 2020, that's when it flipped to him. And that you could see. It was really obvious. Now, I look at it and I think I could totally see Schumer.
Oh, everybody's going to be so...
Yeah, and the thing is, the problem with the situation we're in is that, I mean, I look for ways where I can explain it in an alternative way, but we're in the right now, we're right on the doorstep of when the Civil War was happening in the 1860s. And I mean, it's pretty obvious, think about it. One of the ways you keep this thing moving in gridlock and a lot of anger is if Kamala Harris wins, maybe they win the House too, because the House usually goes with the president. But if they don't have the Senate, good luck, because that's 2 more years minimum of back and forth, very tight.
I think it's going to be close like it was before, 1 or 2 seats, and the VP is the
Okay,
one.
well, look,
That's my feeling. I think this Josh guy is going to win.
Well,
he's an independent. He's not a Democrat.
You mean Coons?
Yeah, Coons, sorry.
Lucas, yeah. Well, no, hey, again, from your lips to God's ears, I would totally take it 1,000%. But when I look at the numbers and when you start to tell me that we need to depend on Texas and Missouri to get over the finish line, I get worried.
Yeah.
I think, man, those places are hostile. They always, Texas, they go out of their way to block votes. They know that the country, the state is now purple from the cities, but they do everything in their power to block, and make things difficult. So I'll keep looking, I'll keep checking and so on. But right now, I'm still a little worried about this.
Did you look at this guy, this Lucas guy?
I did. Lucas has a good chart. So based on the day, no birth time, just birthday.
They're saying that today that he'll have we don't know if Josh Hawley will back out because he's a chicken. He's supposed to have a debate with this guy, and I think he'll wipe the floors with him.
Well, so that would be good.
Lucas will wipe the
and there's
floor.
the possibility of Colin Allred, because the thing is, you see, you need a lot of things have to go. A seat is being lost pretty much, at least from what I hear. The one that the guy in Virginia, what's his name, or West, the guy that we had that is more of an independent. What's the guy's name? He's in
Manchin or
Manchin. Okay, so Manchin retired, and that seat looks like it's going Republican. And then there's the Montana seat where Tester is obviously the better guy, but the other guy is, one of these good-looking
But I talked to
billionaires.
people, I have a client that lives out there, and she said Tester is actually beloved out there.
Oh, he is, but it looks like he's behind by too much. When you're behind a little bit.
You're dealing with those idiots. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Tester may get, and he always looked like he was going to lose.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is that when I look at the Senate race, the Senate map, it looks tough. It looks difficult to me. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
But it's not a landslide, that's for sure.
No, it isn't. But see, the Senate is the kind of thing where even if they held on to the tie, then that's good. They can keep going. But if they fall behind by 1 seat,
yeah, but it doesn't matter about Manchin. Manchin never worked as a Democrat anyway.
No, but Manchin was voting. No, but he was voting with Democrats. And by the way, they didn't even need him a lot of the time. They were okay. So it just comes down to there are close races in Wisconsin and Ohio. I think they'll pull those out. But then there is the one with Manchin and the one with Montana. So then you got to make them up somewhere. And that's where you got to go toward Hawley, like in Missouri or in Texas. And it gets tough. It gets tough because those places are difficult to win in, So,
right.
Yeah, that's the
well, can Kamala do like Trump did and do executive orders?
Oh, yeah. No, she can do executive orders, but you can't really. Executive orders, yes, but I don't know how far you can go, for instance, on matters of women's rights. And you know what ends up happening when you do an executive order, if it's the kind of thing that is really counter to the way the GOP thinks, they throw it in court and they start blocking,
Trump did executive orders all the time.
Oh, yeah, no, and then they would end up in court, but some of them got through. I mean, it just means, see, the point I'm making here is that when you see astrology that reflects a time in the country when things were very divided, you start to think, well, the echoes, right? It's like the rhyming. People say things don't repeat because they can never repeat, but you get it's like you're looking at a poem where it looks similar, right? And it shouldn't be close. Like, look, we know the fact that someone like Kamala Harris the way she is, ultra competent, beautiful person with good intentions, that she's running against this garbage can of a man. By the way, he's totally obsessed with garbage now. Now he's telling you about himself. The country is a garbage can, and now he's putting on garbage outfits because of what Biden said, and he goes into a garbage truck. He looked pretty feeble though. He nearly fell backward.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
goes up to the truck, and I gotta tell everyone here, if you want to see really good, fun analysis, The Bulwark and Tim Miller and
Yeah,
Sam
I
Stein,
watched them.
they are hilarious. The way when they're discussing something that happened,
Yeah.
because they just see the comedy and you can see them, laughing constantly as they're telling you what happened. So highly recommended.
Um, this is interesting. Judy said, why do some families have multiple people with the same birthdays? That's not astrological. You don't know.
Well, because they do. I mean, it's like sometimes why people say something which happens, because I've come
Yeah.
across this, where they marry someone with a name and then they marry another person with the same name, and you wonder, well, wow, that's strange that it would happen. But I've seen that way more than once, several times, where the wife or the husband, same repeated thing, as though they're in
Yeah.
that zone or whatever. But those are things that in astrology, not really,
Yeah.
no, you don't really look at that too much.
So, can astrology tell us about any bad weather that will happen in the future?
Astrology can focus on the weather, but like a lot of things, you need to be a specialist. I actually know someone who writes articles on weather patterns, but that's not my forte. Just like, for instance, I often quote my namesake, this French guy that did all this work on the global astrology, and he was pinning conjunctions to countries. I mean, really good work, but that's not where I specialize. He didn't specialize in personal astrology, which is what I've done over many years. So it's difficult
Right.
for me to tell you, yes, you can do that, but you need to really be looking at it a lot. And by the way, an example of weather astrology, or like kind of in an indirect way, is Al Gore. You can see in his chart why he is the global warming czar, because his planets cut across the weather part of the chart, right? And you see
Wow.
and that's really poetic. But then to go from there to say, well, no, look, I can tell you there's going to be a hurricane. I mean, that's in a way more of a, the reason we're having more and more dangerous extreme hurricanes is because of climate change. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. Even though
Yeah.
Trump says that it's a hoax, it's not a hoax. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. He's the hoax. Does astrology or astronomy play a role in the timing of spiritual awakening?
It does, but okay, that's individual to the person, right? So, well, and actually, that's a great question. I'll tell you why. There was back in the 20th century. I can't remember when he died, but Rajneesh, he was this really famous master who came from India, set up a compound in Oregon, and then got in trouble with the government. I mean, and he had the kind of chart that you could see, a total rebel, and so then that's what happened. But there was a chart for him, and at one point when he was really young, I think he was 16 or something like. He gave the date when he said that's when I became enlightened. Right? He said he fell out of a tree.
Really?
Whatever he was doing, boom. So I went to look at the angles, and this is what shows you that difficult astrology can lead to really great things, because I looked at the angles and they were really, really challenging. But challenging energy means you change, right? And
Yeah.
enlightenment would be something where you go,
That happened to me when I was begging for my life with cancer, and I
well,
had
yeah, that you're an example. You had Saturn opposite, right? So
Yeah.
it's both. When you're having Saturn opposite, it's both. I don't like this. It's really bad, and there's a possibility of breakthrough, big breakthrough, right? So, yeah, that's
happened to
the
me.
interesting thing.
How about the Supreme Court? You do more individuals. They're asking about any kind of challenge. I see them sitting before a group of people. They are going to be in trouble. And you know, whoever's coming into, like, let's say what you're saying is true, it it'll still be close, but let's say Republicans get in. Republicans aren't going to be as MAGA after this because the guy's a loser with a big L.
Yes and no. I mean, these movements, they never die overnight. And the thing
Yeah.
is, their voters are going to be very upset for all kinds of reasons. And the GOP is now totally primed to go along with them. You know, they'll promote garbage. And so I have a hard time believing, well, for example, who's going to, would the House do it? Would the Senate do it? You know, it makes it hard if you don't have the capability to bring the Supreme Court in. Ask yourself this question: why didn't they bring them in? The Senate is Democratic right now. Why didn't they bring them in?
Because they do this through whatever. They have to have a certain amount of people say yes.
Okay, well then you tell me how that works. I mean that's the whole point, is that the
Well, they
country.
want to get rid of it. What's the name of it? Where you have to have a certain amount of people.
Well, that's the
You need to get
filibuster,
rid
but
of that.
you're talking about for passing legislation, right?
Well,
That's
the thing is, they were just split. Can we bring them in? Nobody said nothing. Nobody on the Republican side, yeah, make them show us why they lied to us, why they committed fraud.
Well, I mean, you know, again, I don't know. My feeling is it's going to take a while for the Supreme Court to be, you know,
I
to be
see
brought to account.
Thomas going away pretty fast.
Yeah, well, Thomas
I
could
think because they're going to have Jack Smith bring on his wife Jenny, and he's going to have to exit.
or because of his health too. He's had
Yeah.
health setbacks, right? But the thing is, then you know, people then jump and go, well, what about Kavanaugh? What about?
Oh, well, listen, she can. Why didn't Biden add to the Supreme Court? He's from the old school. He's like Merrick Garland. He wants to follow. Maybe she'll get in there and say, you know what? No, let's pack it now.
Perhaps, yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah,
Because she said, I'm not Biden. I'm not President Biden. I'm not going to do the things the way. She
Sure.
might, in the back of her mind, think, you know what, the hell with them. I'm going to go ahead and pack it. But I saw them packing boxes. Now, this is what I want to bring up, and I'll do it on another little show. I saw the Supreme Court packing boxes after Trump loses. Like I saw, like people were packing their things, like they were trying to exit. I'm wondering, let me just put this out, food for thought. You don't have to make a comment on it. But I'm wondering, is it because the Democrats are going to come after them? Or is it because they all said no to Trump on something and everybody's furious?
Could be both. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be both. Yeah. I mean, I wish I had more visibility on the
Yeah,
Supreme
you can
Court.
only go by the signs.
I have a few, you know, few markers. My instinct, my sense is that it's still down the road. It's not an easy thing to do. They're a separate branch. If you start
You're
plowing
independent
in,
branch.
because I mean, think about it. The GOP is protective of those guys because those are their guys, and they see that as a barrier
plus.
to. So then they're not going to make that easy for you. They're not going to make it easy. They're going to make it tough. And if you start pushing in hard, they're going to say, "Oh, you're power grab and all
She
this."
can add, she doesn't need their assistance. She can pack the court. I'm telling you right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff Biden could have done and he didn't do it.
Right. Well, yeah, perhaps, possibly. You know.
He likes to go old school.
Yeah.
He thought he could work across the table. Boy, I bet he was shocked. You know, he's from the old school. 50 years, he thought he could work with his friends. Even Lindsey Graham used to be his friend. And now they're just terrible people.
Yeah, it's true.
So, okay, here's a good one. Fabulous woman. Andre, in the name of all that is holy, please tell us Capricorns with Aquarius risings are not going to go through another 20 years of hell because of Pluto.
Capricorns with Aquarius rising.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what degree the Aquarius rises. You know, these questions. You know, honestly, it's just like going to the doctor and saying, "Hey, can you tell me what's wrong by just looking at my elbow?" You know, no. I mean, you got no
You need
idea.
all the details.
That's a question where the way I would look at that is, I do a chart for a person. I ask them to tell me what happened, when did it start, where are you now with it, if it ended, and then I gauge, what the period is. But to just say Capricorn with Aquarius rising, there's too much room. Like Pluto right now is really early in Aquarius. In fact, it's not even in Aquarius yet. It starts, the final entry is in November. Goes in there, it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years, 20, close to 2042, I think, or 43, long time. But the early degrees first. So if you tell me I'm Aquarius rising and you have Aquarius 20 degrees, you got no Pluto at all. It's going to be way, way later. But if you have it, then it's a different story. Then you have to address it. Now, the thing is, Pluto, by the way, Pluto is the most useful planet if you want to make a big change in your life. If you really want to go from one place to another, that's the planet you need. So don't be afraid of Pluto that way. Now, I will admit, if you are really sick, I wouldn't want that planet there. That because then your change might be,
They haven't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mike Johnson, have you took a look at him lately?
Yeah, I took a look. By the way, did you catch that thing that he was caught on the hot mic?
Yeah, that he said they were going to get rid of Obamacare.
Correct. So yeah, the thing with him is that okay, that's a good example of the person that asked about January 20th. He's got Saturn energy swirling around, and that's typically a denial. And he's another one though that. Remember that you and I had talked and earlier in the year, and you had said, "Oh, I think this guy is the middle of the road," which of course he's not. But he did middle of the road things, like for instance, he funded Ukraine and he went against his own people.
Yeah,
correct. But now, and that's on the strength of the Jupiter energy and all that. But now Saturn is the player as we go into the new year, and that's usually a no, a denial type of energy, that's a good one to correlate to the Democrats regaining the House, right? As an example.
As it shows he's not going to have any power.
But limited visibility in that I don't have an actual chart the way I do for Schumer.
Okay.
So there's that.
November 5th, did you look at the energies on November 5th?
Oh, yeah, totally. Of course I've looked at those energies.
It looks okay?
Well, I've said way more than once, probably 10 times already. It's just that.
But I don't listen. You have to tell me again.
Well, because I'll put it in videos and then, I don't keep track of everything I said. I just remember that I said it. So one of the things is when you compare the energy for Trump versus Kamala Harris, November 5th, that's a big reason why I'm pointing it away from him and toward her, because the energy November 5th for him is the energy of an angry person, that is run into a wall, right? Based on where the planets are. I know there are astrologers that disagree with this. I just disagree with the way they're analyzing it.
That's why we listen to you. So listen, what about November 26th? Trump he's going to try to get it delayed, but what about November 26th?
I didn't even look at November 26th. For now, what I've been doing is gauging it as it doesn't work for him, and then it's just a steady progression, right? And whether or not it happens November 26th, doesn't matter, it happens later. The other thing that I heard about that...
His hearing is November 26th.
Correct, but this is where Scaramucci said something funny. At one point he said that Trump is less likely, although this I find is a bit odd, but he said Trump, when he loses, is much less likely to try to start another insurrection, because if he does, the odds that he gets put in jail increase, because the judge might be thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to put him in jail to try to keep the peace, but if he sees that, he's doing, then he might do it. So let me just put it this way: the terrain is hostile to him, So that could be one of the things.
Yeah, and then if they do put him in jail, maybe people will show their rears more. So
yeah.
Hey, Andre Desiree said, Saturn sounds like such a challenge. What does it mean for those of us who are in Capricorn?
Well, what that means is
you got to have the degrees, yeah.
Well, you have the degrees, but starting next year, and especially in 26, 27, and a part of 28, Saturn is in Aries, which challenges Capricorn. So when that happens, Capricorns, in one way, can run into more problems from their prior actions. That's part of it. But the real meaning, the power meaning is, this is when you can change your life in a new direction, because you need Saturn to motivate you. That's the irony of Saturn, that no one likes it, but no
It's
one
a
makes any
hard
change.
worker.
Yeah, I mean, think of your own. You report your big change was on a Saturn pressure cycle.
Yeah,
So it's both true that you have more problems then, no question. But you just gotta, it's like you make lemonade with those lemons. You just do
yeah,
it, and then what ends up happening is that's when you make the shift. So welcome it because you have no way out anyway.
exactly.
It's gonna
I
be like that.
remember that psychic, or she's an astrologer, Susan Miller. And I remember reading on her with my Saturn coming in, and it wasn't pretty. And she said, I'm so sorry, such and such Virgos, blah, blah, blah. She wasn't a personalized chart. But then she said, just remember, Saturn always leaves a gift at the door on its way out. And I got a nice fat gift at the door on its way out.
Yeah. It's the work energy. I mean, think of Saturn. How many things in life do you really ever get without working for them? The idea that the solution to your problems is to buy lottery tickets or hope, that something will happen. Most of the time it doesn't. It could, but I wouldn't do that. That's,
Right.
it's not a good plan.
Real quick, how's Netanyahu's chart doing? Have you been able
Netanyahu,
to see?
he's kind of in a holding pattern. We've talked about it many times before. Netanyahu, Putin, Thomas, Alito, Elon Musk, to me, they're in a bucket. The bucket is next year, worse. The year after that, even worse still. It's like that, right?
Okay.
You just have to wait, though. Yes, it's possible that next week. I know it's possible. Probably not. You have to wait. Give it time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, how long have we been on?
I don't know. I'm not tracking because when you and
I
I
think it's
talk,
about an hour.
we get going, and yeah. So I think we've covered pretty much it. I can't
We've
think of
covered a
anything.
lot.
Oh, yes, there's one thing that I'll say
Right.
that I heard yesterday, and then I heard it again today. And the person yesterday, David Plouffe, he's a really smart guy. He used to work for Obama. And he said, did you notice, he was talking with someone and he said, did you notice that news was coming out of Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania, by the way, is the critical state. That state, the problem with that state, though, is that you can't really know on November 5th because they have to count votes, and they're one of those states, unlike Florida. Florida reports that
Right
that
away.
day.
Yeah.
But Pennsylvania, this is where Trump for sure is going to throw it in court and try to stall it, right? But apparently the Harris campaign, through reporters, I don't know what the process was. They're getting really good news out of Pennsylvania, even though the polls. So Plouffe said as soon as that was known, Trump started saying, oh, they're cheating in Pennsylvania. And then I heard this morning again, Joe Scarborough was saying, isn't it interesting that as soon as he hears, he immediately claims fraud because he's preparing the ground to say, how could we have lost there, right? But it's very good news because Pennsylvania is the key, to
There
this
you go.
election. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I thought I'd mention that because I think it's good news.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you guys. Thanks for listening to my story about what was it?
Liver and bacon.
DoorDash, who I'll never use again. I hope that
Linda's-
$25 was worth it.
Linda's liver and bacon story. All right.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. God bless.